Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're examining a topic that has completely taken the internet by storm, using rosemary oil for hair growth. Millions of people right now are searching for natural remedies to combat hair thinning, and frankly, it is incredibly easy to feel overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there. So we are going to bypass the viral social media trends entirely and conduct a rigorous analysis of the source material. By grounding our understanding in actual dermatological science, clinical trials, and strict biological facts, we'll uncover the genuine reality of this botanical extract. If you want to understand basic hair care without all the marketing noise, you are exactly where you need to be. Let's dive right in. Here is our agenda for today. First, myths and facts of rosemary. Second, rosemary versus 2% minoxidil. Third, the dangers of undiluted use. Fourth, how to dilute correctly. And finally, natural therapies versus clinical treatments. Section 1. Myths and facts of rosemary. So does rosemary oil actually work for hair growth? It's the central question driving millions of internet searches and countless product sales. But as you might expect, the answer isn't just a simple yes or no. People are understandably desperate for a quick, natural solution to hair loss, which makes them highly susceptible to exaggerated claims. To truly understand its efficacy, we first need to dismantle the unrealistic expectations set by social media algorithms and look objectively at what the human body is actually biologically capable of achieving. Let's start with timelines, where there's a stark contrast between expectation and reality. The popular myth floating around is that you can regrow your hair in mere weeks, but the dermatological fact? Visible results require a minimum of 3 to 6 months of consistent use. You see, hair growth is dictated by strict, unyielding biological cycles. The anagen, or growth phase, involves highly complex cellular division right at the root of the follicle. Following that are the resting and shedding phases. Because hair only grows roughly half an inch per month under the absolute best conditions, these physiological cycles simply cannot be rushed by any topical application. It doesn't matter how potent or concentrated that oil might be. Another massive misconception is the actual scope of what this treatment can do. The myth suggests rosemary oil cures advanced baldness. In reality, it supports microcirculation, primarily for mild thinning and early-stage androgenetic alopecia. While rosemary oil does possess active therapeutic properties, it physically cannot regenerate hair follicles that have undergone complete atrophy. Once a follicle is fully depleted and seals over into scar tissue, a clinical state known as permanent fibrosis, topical oils cannot bring it back. It is a highly effective supportive therapy, yes, but it is not a resurrection tool for permanently dead follicles. Now here is a very common DIY error we see circulating online: boiling rosemary branches to make rosemary water while expecting clinical-grade results. The problem? Rosemary water is aqueous. Because it is water-based, it completely lacks the lipophilic or fat-soluble active compounds necessary for true efficacy. Plus, without preservatives, it spoils rapidly, becoming a dangerous breeding ground for bacteria that can severely disrupt your scalp's microbiome. Rosemary essential oil, on the other hand, is lipid-soluble. Since our human scalp has a natural fatty barrier known as the stratum corneum, only a lipid-soluble oil can physically penetrate this skin barrier to deliver those active phytochemicals deep down into the hair follicle where they're actually needed. Section 2. Rosemary versus 2% minoxidil. The number 6 is critically important to our understanding of clinical validity here. It represents the 6-month duration of the pivotal 2015 comparative clinical trial conducted at Shiraz University. As we just established, real dermatological change takes time. A rigorous 6-month study purposefully bypasses the placebo effect and fully accounts for natural shedding cycles. This extended time frame underscores the immense patience required by both researchers and patients to yield accurate, measurable dermatological data using standardized tools. Let's carefully review the data from this benchmark study. At the 6-month mark, both the rosemary oil group and the 2% minoxidil group experienced a statistically significant increase in hair count. The actual efficacy difference between the two treatments was found to be scientifically comparable. However, the crucial differentiator was tolerability. The natural oil caused a remarkably low incidence of side effects. In sharp contrast, the minoxidil group experienced a significantly higher rate of scalp itching and irritation. In dermatology, compliance is absolutely everything. If a treatment causes severe itching, a patient will simply stop using it, which makes the high tolerability of rosemary a massive clinical advantage for long-term success. So what is the specific biological mechanism actually driving this efficacy? Well, it's largely attributed to carnosic acid. This active phytochemical in rosemary extract acts as a natural inhibitor of the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. By inhibiting this enzyme, it slows down the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. DHT is the primary hormone responsible for the miniaturization of hair follicles in genetic hair loss. Miniaturization means that the DHT binds to androgen receptors in the scalp and literally chokes off the blood supply. It shrinks the follicle over successive growth cycles until the hair becomes just microscopic peach fuzz and eventually stops growing entirely. Inhibiting this process is a foundational cornerstone of retaining your hair. Section 3. The dangers of undiluted use. Natural does not automatically mean safe for everyone. This is a fundamental, non-negotiable rule in dermatology and toxicology. There's this dangerous misconception that just because a product is derived from a plant, it couldn't possibly cause harm. Listen, essential oils are not gentle botanical teas. They are highly concentrated, volatile chemical compounds. It takes pounds of raw plant material to produce just a few drops of essential oil. Because of this extreme concentration, they demand absolute respect and highly precise handling. Here are the severe consequences of applying undiluted or neat essential oils directly to your scalp. First, you risk severe chemical burns, allergic contact dermatitis, and extreme redness and stinging. Furthermore, you can trigger permanent allergic sensitization. This means your immune system will react negatively to that specific oil forever, preventing you from ever using it again in any product. Ultimately, undiluted use leads to the complete destruction of your scalp's vital protective barrier, leaving you totally vulnerable to infection and chronic dryness. And here is the truly cruel irony of all this. If you use an undiluted essential oil hoping to grow hair, you will severely damage your scalp barrier. A damaged barrier triggers profound systemic inflammation, and inflammation actively accelerates a condition called telogen effluvium, meaning it forcefully pushes healthy follicles into the shedding phase prematurely. As a result, it will literally make your hair fall out much faster. Improper use actively and aggressively works against your goals. Section 4. How to dilute correctly. The absolute foundation of safety here is the carrier oil. A carrier oil is a stable, neutral, fatty base oil. Excellent examples would be jojoba oil, which closely mimics human sebum, or fractionated coconut oil. Its primary function is to safely dilute those highly volatile essential oils. By suspending the concentrated essential oil in a much larger volume of a fatty base, it allows the active botanical compounds to be absorbed slowly and safely into the tissue. This mechanism completely protects your delicate skin barrier from chemical burns, while ensuring that the active payload still effectively reaches the follicle. Let's break down the precise mathematics of dilution, because more is absolutely not better in dermatology. Consistency is what matters. For daily maintenance or sensitive scalps, a 1% dilution is required, which is exactly 6 drops of essential oil per 30 milliliters of carrier oil. For standard adult scalp treatment, aim for a 2% dilution, which is 12 drops per 30 milliliters. You must explicitly stay within this 1 to 2% range for all standard care. A 5% dilution is the absolute maximum, requiring 30 drops. But hear me clearly, this is reserved exclusively for acute, short-term spot treatments, not for a full scalp overnight application. Let's turn this into practical preparation. First, pour 30 milliliters of your carrier oil into a dark glass bottle, something like amber or cobalt blue. Dark glass is mandatory because it prevents ultraviolet light from oxidizing and degrading those sensitive botanical compounds. Also, the concentrated terpenes in essential oils act as strong solvents. If stored in plastic, they can slowly dissolve the container, leaching chemical plasticizers directly into your treatment. Second, carefully add your 6 to 12 drops of rosemary oil. Third, cap it tightly and shake vigorously for 30 seconds to ensure a perfectly homogeneous blend. Finally, always store your mixture in a cool, dark environment to maximize its shelf life. Before you proceed to use your new formulation, you must heed this final safety warning. Always perform a 24-hour patch test. Apply a single drop of your newly mixed oil to your inner forearm, where the skin is thin and very easy to monitor, and wait a full 24 hours to check for any delayed hypersensitivity reactions. This simple, non-negotiable step is vital to prevent widespread, severe allergic reactions from occurring across your entire scalp, neck, and face. Section 5. Natural therapies versus clinical treatments. Let's accurately define the appropriate scope of natural therapies. Interventions like properly diluted rosemary and pumpkin seed oils, regular scalp massages that physically stretch dermal papilla cells to boost circulation, and correcting underlying nutritional deficiencies like low iron or vitamin D are all highly valuable. However, they are best suited as complementary tools. They are incredibly effective for mild thinning, early-stage alopecia, and maintaining excellent general scalp health by building a really strong biological foundation. Conversely, when facing advanced genetic hair loss, deeply rooted hormonal causes, or highly aggressive shedding, clinical interventions are strictly required. Dermatologists utilize prescription systemic DHT blockers like finasteride or dutasteride to halt the miniaturization process internally. They use advanced procedures like platelet-rich plasma therapy, where your own blood is centrifuged to isolate growth factors and injected directly to stimulate dormant follicles. This is often done alongside clinically validated low-level laser therapy. Severe or rapid hair loss requires the heavy lifting and precision of medical science, not just botanical oils. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, transitioning from popular online myths to hard clinical data, and emphasizing critical safety and dilution protocols. You now know that natural treatments require serious patience, precise formulation, and highly realistic expectations. So, considering the undeniable biology of the hair cycle, how will you adjust your own hair care routine starting tonight? Will you stick to the viral myths promising overnight miracles, or will you trust the rigorous science of dermatology? If you found this explainer valuable, please remember to quartier, commentaire, and s'inscriver so we can continue bringing you structured, fact-based analyses. Thank you so much for learning with us today.